You know, interesting question that is asked when we start the night of the Pesach Seder. That question is, why is there no bracha made on the Haggadah? Why is there no bracha? It's a mitzvah, a mitzvah deraisa, mitzvah in the Torah to recite over the story. So why is there no bracha? Typically speaking, we make a bracha before we do mitzvah. So there are many, many answers. Some Rishonim learn that you only make a bracha on a mitzvah that's a davar mesuyim, something that's a specific finite amount. You won't make a bracha on tzedakah because there is no exact amount. And Haggadah, also there's no exact amount. That's one answer of many answers. That's a very nice answer, I believe, from the Chasam Sofer. Very interesting answer. The night of Pesach is a night where it's supposed to be a personal experience. And it's not about recounting or remembering what happened last year or actually what happened 1,000 years ago, but rather we're reliving the experience. What are we reliving? We're reliving the experience of the idea of being constricted in gullus and then feeling the sense of freedom and redemption. What does that even mean? Imagine if somebody lives in a block, lives in a whole block. There's a block, he lives in a house on a block, and then this block is surrounded by a big wall. And nobody can see past the wall. So as far as they're concerned, the whole world exists within this block. Then one day somebody gives him a ladder. He's able to climb to the top of the wall. He lives on top of the wall. He's a whole world out there, right? That's the difference between exile and redemption. Exile, you can't get past the little piece of space that you're in. And redemption is you see a whole. It's a transformative experience. You go from being in a very constricted state to a really expanded state. It's transformative. In fact, the Jews were so constricted. There's a dispute. We know there's a formula that our God is supposed to follow. We're supposed to follow a formula of maschil and begnus u'misayim b'geshvach. You start with a derogatory thing about it, saying something that's not nice about the Jewish people, and that we were in a bad state. U'misayim b'geshvach, and we conclude with something praiseworthy to show how much we've grown from nothing to greatness. So the question is, what was the maschil and begnus? Some say it's because we started saying our forefathers were idol worshippers. Right? Terach was an idol worshipper. Some say it starts with the words Avadim Hayinu L'Paro. We were slaves to Paro Mitzrayim. Now, although that's not a nice thing to be, it's not one thing to be proud of. But what was it our fault that we were slaves to Paro? Why is that something derogatory about the Jewish people? It's interesting. You find that Bnei Yisrael complained about the suffering that they were in Egypt, but you don't necessarily find they complained about them being Avadim, being slaves. In other words, they somehow accepted their fate as slaves. They didn't want the torture, and that they protested. But that itself was a tragedy. The Ganai, the derogatory thing about the Jews is that they accepted their fate as slaves, that they didn't have a better, they didn't hope for bigger, they didn't want for more, that they were satisfied being under somebody else's dominion. That itself is the most derogatory thing, but that came from the Mitzrayim, and the word Mitzrayim comes from the word Mitzrim, which means confined and confining. And the Mitzrayim had them convinced that they were very limited in terms of who they can be. But Geula is a breakout. Geula is a breakout, like when you're able to climb a ladder and see above the wall. That's a breakout experience. It's a transformative experience. And that's what the Jews had to go through. And once they had this transformative experience, so then the sky's the limit, obviously, but they had to be able to break out of that mind of that thinking that they're constricted and constrained and there's no room for growth. There was a guy, I think his name was Roger Bannister, I think his name was. Yeah, Roger Bannister.
Runner, yeah.
The runner, right? Roger Bannister was, if I'm not mistaken, he was the guy who broke the 4-minute mile.
1954.
There you go, 54. A little before my time, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. What was unusual wasn't that he broke the 4-minute mile, but soon after, it was considered to be an unbreakable record. But soon after he broke it, within months, there were a number of people that broke that 4-minute barrier. It's astounding. What happened? He showed them it was possible. As long as in your mindset it's impossible, you think you can't do it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. But once you know it exists in the realm of possibility, then we push ourselves to accomplish it. It's an incredible lesson in psychology. It wasn't that they became automatically more equipped physically. I mean, today we're more developed in many ways. Physically, yes, that's true. But when they broke out within months, it wasn't because they got better training within those months. Because their mindset changed. It could be done. So as long as Bnei Yisrael were in this constricted state, they didn't even fathom the possibility of a larger vista of Chayris. So really, Geula is a transformative state. It's a whole new state of being, a whole new state of mind, what we're able to accomplish. if somebody wants to convert, so they also part of the process have to go to a mikveh, right? And they make a bracha, but they only make the bracha after they go to the mikveh, which makes sense because before they go to the mikveh, they're not Jewish yet. They can't make the bracha, right? So that's why they make the bracha after, which is unusual because normally you make a bracha over lasiyasim. Normally you make the bracha prior to the mitzvah. Before you shake the lulav, you make the bracha. Before you eat the matzah, you make the bracha, right? It's over lasiyasim. Before you light the candles for Chanukah, you make the bracha. Typically speaking, the halacha is the bracha precedes the actual mitzvah. There are some that say that there is a bracha on Haggadah. The bracha on Haggadah is the Asher Gal, what we say at the end of the first part of Halal. Asher Ga'alnu, Galavasenu, right? Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael. Hashem redeems the Jewish people, that's the bracha. But people have a problem with that, which is, if that's the bracha, why isn't it said prior to the Haggadah being said? Why is it said after? And the answer is exactly this. If the Haggadah allows us to have a transformative process, just like the ger can't make the bracha before he becomes the ger, we can't make the bracha until we become free. When we finish the Haggadah and we have that experience, and we experience that transformative state ourselves, it's happening to us. If it's happening to us, then we can say the bracha. We can't say when we start the night. It's only when we go through the night and then we finally experience the geula ourselves, we can make that bracha. So yes, some say there is a bracha for the Haggadah. It takes place afterwards, which is unusual, but it has to, much like the ger, that can only make the bracha afterwards as well. That's one thing I wanted to share with you. And then we go to I'm just going to pick a couple of slots. Halach ma'anya. This is the poor man's bread that we ate in Egypt. Now, some people assume that that's the reason why we eat matzah on Pesach, and I mentioned that last time. That's not the reason why. According to Maral argues vociferously with this. I think the Barbanal does say that it's one of the reasons why, but that's not why we eat matzah Pesach. In fact, in the Haggadah itself, we later on say, matzah al shema. Why do we eat matzah? Because we were in a hurry to leave Mitzrayim, right? We say the reason why we ate, not because we ate poor man's bread in Egypt, but because we were in a hurry to leave. But no doubt the poor man's bread plays a role in the Seder. And as soon as we say halach ma'anya, which is the start of the Haggadah, we invite kol dichven yesev yechel. Whoever's hungry, let him come and eat. Why is this the outset of the Haggadah? The night of Pesach, we not only express our thanks that Hashem brought us out into freedom and gave us Gula, but we also are able to appreciate that the Gullus had a purpose as well. Gullus had a purpose too. And that we talked about last week, Gullus leads to Gula. It's part of a package, right? That's what we talked about the Korach series about last week. So it's part of a process that Gullus gets us into Gula. And we realize that the Gullus was helpful to us too. The Jewish people are by far the most philanthropic people in the world. We give tzedakah at a greater rate than anybody else. It's outstanding. Sometimes you look at politicians; they don't even show their tax returns. I think because half of them are embarrassed at how little tzedakah they give. I'm not. I remember the famous Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. I think he gave $500. This is his big contribution. Everyone should give. Right? It's mind-boggling. But the Jews way ahead of the game. Part of it is because we know what it means to suffer. We fight for the underdog. Sometimes when it's not right, you look at the ACLU, it's 90% Jewish, and they fight for the underdog in terrible ways sometimes also. They're the ones that fought Nebuch, terrible warped minds, that allowed the Nazis to march in Skokie. Right? If you remember that many years ago. So that's terrible, no question about it. But the fact that it's part of our DNA that we care about the underdog is because we suffered ourselves. And we became a different people because of that. We're much more sympathetic people. And that's why the first thing we do when we sit down to the tables, we say, you know what, look at the Gullus. The Gullus allowed us to be the people to say, Kol dich, whenever's hungry, let him come eat. That's an outgrowth of the fact that we went through Gullus itself. It's also interesting, one of the Pesukim, with the Torah, we know there's a question, we're supposed to be in Gullus for 400 years, but we got out early, right? There are many reasons why we got out early. So I have to share with you an interesting reason why we got out early. It says in the Torah that when the Bnei Yisrael cried, and they were in tremendous pain for the torture they went through, so Hashem, the Torah says, I also heard their cries. So the question of me, I also, who else heard their cries? Hashem says, I also, who else? So I think as Chassam Sofer says, that it means besides the Jewish people. Meaning, typically speaking, human nature is when you have a consuming tragedy that kind of really has you so absorbed in that tragedy, you can't see for anybody else. You're not even aware of anybody else's pain, let alone feel somebody else's pain, right? When you have your sorrow, it's so consuming. You're not aware of other people's pain, and even if you are, you don't have time to deal with. You don't have the headspace to deal with somebody else's pain. But the Bnei Yisrael and Mitzrayim, each one not only felt their own pain, they felt everybody else's pain also. They felt everybody else's pain also. And so, Vagam means also I, in addition to the Bnei Yisrael feeling each other's pain, I felt their pain also. And the reason why we got out of Golos early is because if Golos is supposed to be X amount of pain per person, so to speak, but if the Jews felt other people pain, they increased the Golos on themselves, so to speak, so therefore it was accelerated. Yes. You follow? It accelerated the goals because in addition to their own pain, they endured, they were able the pain of others. And that it therefore intensified the goals in a certain sense. And that's why the goals was accelerated. That's a beautiful concept. And that also feeds into another point. At the end of the Haggadah, and this year I'm trying to say totally new ideas. In the past years, I think we did some things. I don't know if I can do them now. But we have the Echad Miyodea song. Who knows one, who knows two, and last week we talked about who knows nine, right? We talked about pregnancy, and pregnancy means potential. We talked about the idea that the Jew has to tap into their potential. Right? We talked about that? Yeah? I think so, right? Yes, no?
Maybe another group, I don't know.
I didn't talk about pregnancy last week?
No.
I didn't talk about pregnancy?
Not last week, last year.
Really? Okay, so I'll talk about
last year
that.
you gave us some booklets.
Oh, I forgot the booklets. Okay.
Yeah, the booklets.
Tishrei Yachei Leda. Who knows 9? 9 months of pregnancy. I mean, what does that got to do with anything? I mean, Hashem is 1, and 2 is the Luchos, 3 is the Avos Imois. Those are all spiritual things. 9 months of pregnancy? What does that mean? So the Zohar says something very strange. The Zohar says, he asks a question. It says in last week's parasha, Ish Kesriya, when a woman becomes pregnant, she gives birth. So if she gives birth to a male, she's tummy this amount of days. For a female, this amount of days. All the halachas. So Zohar is basically asking a question. Why does it say Isha Kisazriya when a woman is pregnant? And then she gives birth. Let it say when a woman gives birth. What do you have to emphasize the pregnancy for? The halachas start from the birthing, not from the pregnancy. Why do you have to say Isha Kisazriya v'yolda zachar? What do you have to talk about the pregnancy for? Isha kiyolda zachar. This is the halacha.
Because of the pain.
Huh?
The pain that you go through.
No, that's not relevant here. But listen, so the Zohar says something interesting. The Zohar says, because a woman, from the day she's pregnant, all she does is talk about her baby. Okay, so what?